Piers Morgan, stepping up. What is this we have here? President Biden told Trump-sized lies. Okay, so he still took a jab at Trump about the vaccine rollout. But the groveling U.S. media was too busy putting halos on Saints Joe and Kamala to say so. No wonder Trump supporters still don't believe anything they hear. And the funny thing was, I don't know if a lot of you heard about this, but the press secretary was saying that the goal was going to be to get to 1 million shots per day for 100 days. So 100 million doses delivered. I'd imagine that's 50 and then 50, so in essence 50 million people vaccinated. But when people pointed out that towards the end of the Trump administration, towards the end of his time there, that they were about 1 million anyway, so they said, well, shouldn't your goal be a little bit higher? Shouldn't you be aiming higher than what we're currently doing? If we were currently doing about 1 million, and that's your goal, oh, what are you telling me? I mean, we're going to stick with the status quo, Joe? So when he was asked about that, he gave the old, come on, man, and then, oh, come on, Mr. Biden, time to go. All right, so let's see what Piers has to say about this. And I have a feeling that he'll be catching heat from those individuals on the left for daring to speak out against their saint. Well, the brave new world of honesty in American politics lasted a grand total of 24 hours, and one can argue that it lasted less than that there was no period of time whatsoever. You can point to something that's kind of petty, I think, no big deal, where he wasn't wearing the mask. He had signed the executive order where masks were required on all federal lands, but yet he and his family were out there not wearing masks on the night of the inauguration for the photo shoot. People talk about this and that. You know, that stuff's petty to me because the way I feel about it is you can't be somebody out here, mainly on the right, if you're somebody talking about, oh, masks, are they really effective? Are they efficient? Down with tyrants and mask laws. And then he's not wearing one. I get the hypocrisy of it, but you should be celebrating. You should be cheering him on, saying, F that executive order, don't wear a mask. Even though somebody in his age group would certainly need one. Good thing he's got a real doctor by his side, Surgeon General candidate, if you remember what Whoopi was talking about. President Joe Biden promised an immediate end to the constant lying from the White House that we endured over 4 years of Donald Trump's tenure. But then he couldn't help himself and promptly spewed the kind of brazen, barefaced, media-bashing whopper that Trump would have loved. Biden made a big noisy deal of setting a target of 100 million CV vaccines in his first 100 days. Okay, it looks like they're going to talk about this here. But he knows that hitting this target would be a completely bogus achievement because the U.S. is already at that level of vaccination, averaging 914,000 daily doses administered last week, according to the CDC, and skyrocketing to 1.6 million on the very day of Biden's inauguration. So if it was 1.6, and I wasn't aware of that until just now, then he's trying to understate it. And then, so the goal would be understate, so 100 million in 100 days, and then when he hits 120, 140, 150, oh wow, Joe's the best ever, oh my God, Trump could never do such a thing. And that's in direct contrast to Trump, for those of you who know what he's all about. Promise big, but then when you underdeliver, you get bashed. So Biden took the opposite tact, the Biden administration, I should say. Underpromise and then overdeliver, even though your underpromise is something that's already happening, so that you can get all that praise. So interesting tactics, right? And you know Trump. You know how he is for individuals on all sides. Overpromise when you don't have the press on your side. If you underdeliver, skewered. So at this rate, the goal will be easily attained and masks the reality that America could and should be aiming a lot higher. Fair enough. That, though, wasn't the lie. That was just the kind of underpromise, over-delivery type of sneaky political spin designated to grab headlines and win a cheap victory down the line when the target is easily met. It's funny. I swear I didn't read this article. I just see headlines and then I get into it. But it's kind of like the cynical nature, right? Piers Morgan's as cynical as me, I guess. And you all know this as well. You know how the game works. I'm not telling you anything that you don't know. And it looks like we have that video I was talking about. Come on, man. Or maybe he said, give me a break. Let's check that video out real quick so you can see what I'm talking about.
Thank you guys. Is that high enough? Or higher than basically where the U.S. is right now?
When I announced it, you all said it's not possible. Come on, give me a break, man. That's a good start. 100 million. Thank you.
You hear him in the back. Oh, come on, Joe. Come on, Joe. Let's go. Come on, Joe. You hear? He gave the combo. Give me a break, man. So it's not come on, man. Or just give me a break. Give me a break, man. I love it. No, the lie came when Biden was asked by a reporter at the White House to defend such a comparatively derisory target and angrily snapped back. When I announced it, you all said it's not possible. Come on, give me a break, man. It's a good start, 100 million. This was utter nonsense. Nobody qualified to comment in the mainstream media said it was impossible. In fact, on the day in December, when Biden first made his 100 million pledge, CNN medical expert, well, I guess they call him that, let's call him made-for-TV doctor, Dr. Gupta, said it was very doable, given that he'd been told by the vaccine companies controlling supply. Biden knows this because he'll have been told the same information by the same companies. Yet he chose to pretend the media had all attacked him for making an impossible promise, and that's the game that's played on the left. Any bit of pushback, oh, come on, man. And that's what happens when you have a situation like we have here in the US, where we have a situation where most of the media, and I pointed to this before, social media, athletes, celebrities, entertainers, corporations, where they're in the bag for one side of the political aisle, that they're made soft. And we can see this in the younger generations as well. The schools, the institutions. When you're made soft, anytime you get the slightest bit of pushback, it's like the worst thing ever. It's like your skin is just going to melt off when somebody challenges you. So when you grow up, or when you're raised, when you're pampered, given all the privileges and advantages, when you're raised a coward, so to speak, when you're raised weak, when you get any slightest bit of pushback, it's the worst thing ever. And that's what I always talk about how people don't understand how great we have it here. Because they're always told they're victims. They fail to see or understand how it is around the world, how other people have it, and what it's like to actually have struggle. People here struggle, sure, by US standards, but by world standards, we have it so great here, but the message is always, you're a victim, you're weak. That's how votes are generated. That's how they get people to that side. And this is it right here. When you have somebody that's lived that life of privilege, the slightest bit of pushback, oh, come on, man, come on, man. And he did that to deflect them from rightly pulling him up on the weakness of his pledge. Good politics, bad optics, especially from the man the media seems to think is more saint than president. I didn't have a problem with a generally euphoric reaction to Biden's inauguration. Yeah, fair enough. You'd expect that from everybody. It's a big thing. We've only had 46 in our history. Like most people, I found his unifying speech very inspiring, and it was a welcome relief to hear some civility coming out of the mouth of the President of the United States again after 4 long, profane years. But by the following morning, I expected the US media to start doing to Biden what they did to Trump from the moment he got elected and hold his feet to ferocious fire. Oh, Piers. Oh, Piers. Piers is cynical. I just know it, like I had said earlier in the video. I know he's being cynical. He knows what's going to happen unless he lives in a bubble himself. After all, the most important function of the media is to make government accountable for its actions. Instead, the open fawning has carried on in quite a nauseating manner, with the exception of Fox News, which naturally is trashing Biden with the same fervor it defended Trump, often indefensibly. America's news networks and newspapers have fought amongst each other to see who can win the title of biggest Biden toady. And it's funny, I always wonder how, with control of all the institutions they have control of, how Republicans or how more conservative type or centrist folks ever win any election. Constantly being beaten over the head day after day after day about how horrible the other side is and how great the other side is. It's amazing that anybody has the ability to grow up and be on that side of it, or any side not far left, to think for themselves, is what I'm saying. One journalist was even fired by the New York Times for being too overt about her breathless excitement after she tweeted, "I have chills," over a photo of Biden's plane landing for the inauguration. I don't agree with the firing, Not least because she was only tweeting what 99% of other New York Times journalists would have been thinking. Yeah, I don't know the full context. I saw some stuff about it, but if you are against cancel culture and all she really did was say, I have chills, you shouldn't be cheering for this. Dangerous precedent. I get it. One less scumbag at the New York Times. Sure, you can say that, but they'll just bring in another scumbag to replace her with. But if this is all she really said, and perhaps there was more to it, I didn't look into the context, just what I've heard. If that's all she really said, you shouldn't be cheering for stuff like this. You shouldn't want people fired over something like that. It makes you just as culpable as the other side, is what I'm saying. But the fact she was happy to be seen, to be so publicly partisan, is a very bad look for the liberal-dominated media. Okay, I get it. Okay, I get it. Whoosh, under the bus you go. Ba-boom. Okay, I get it now. I get it. We know what we know about them, but you can't come out and say it. Remember that one? You probably heard it where the woman, I can't recall what network it was on, but she was saying the lights shining up were like Biden's extended arms giving America a hug. Oh my God. We've seen the same kind of cringeworthy groveling across cable networks too. Former Fox News anchor Megyn Kelly lambasted the media this week because she claimed they checked their objectivity when covering Trump, and the public lost trust as a result. She even said this abandonment of normal impartial journalism was partly to blame for the riots at the U.S. Capitol 3 weeks ago. Mostly peaceful, 98.7%. I wouldn't go that far. Donald Trump was squarely to blame for inciting that riot and should be held properly accountable for it. You'll have to show me evidence. As I've always said, if you can show me where he said directly, go do this, I'm with you. I'll be on board with you. But to have this kind of, oh, well, what he meant was, or Twitter, what he inferred was, you know what Facebook and them are trying to say. If you can tell me the words that came directly out of his mouth, then I'm with you. I'll be like, F that guy. If you can show that to me, anybody on the left, I'm with you. I'll be with you. Prove it. Bring it. Actual words, not your interpretation of the words. Because as I've put in my videos before, I can show you actual examples of where people on the left have incited violence. Cortez, particularly. I can show you that. We can show that Kamala Harris solicited bail funds for rioters in Minneapolis and that Biden's staffers donated to that. But I know. You don't like me if you're on the left. It's all about the cause, right? It was the cause for social justice. It's one and the same. It's what I always say. Call it out or call none of it out. You're a hypocrite if you don't. My feeling has always been this, and it's not going to change, that the media, okay, we'll put some bit of blame on other people for causing this, but my ire is directly aimed at social media and the media for the most part. You put it on the individual, of course. They acted. So they bear a huge amount of the burden, but a huge weight also goes on media, social media, athletes, celebrities, everybody I've pointed to, politicians, who have created this kind of environment where this stuff was encouraged, where you saw one side of the political aisle get away with murder, smashing up streets, businesses, beating people down, deaths, Sequoia Turner, David Dorn, the Chop. We can point to these examples, and they never cover it. Oh, mostly peaceful protests. When you show people that example, why would you not think the other side would be like, oh, well, they get away with it. Well, why can't we? What do you expect them to do? Come on, be real. If you're out there on the left and you saw all of that stuff going on and you saw how the media covered it up, and then you saw what happened recently at the Capitol, the way the media coverage was with these two separate things, we'll just lump all of 2020 together as the big old shit show it was, and with what happened at the Capitol. If you legitimately see, and let me step back, you can be a homer for your team, but you know realistically, come on, you know better. You know that it's bullshit the way things are covered. And you know that when you keep driving and driving and driving and driving people to hate and telling them day after day, this guy's the worst ever, he's compared to the Nazi guy, he's like Hitler, how are people going to react when you keep beating them down over and over and over again? They knew what they were doing. All the people in the media, social media, Facebook, Twitter, that allowed all of that hate, all of that organization to happen on their sites, they knew what they were doing, and it led to what happened at the Capitol. And it's what leads to extremism everywhere, I would say. That's why, in some regards, I can't really hate on BLM and Antifa too much. Same as the nationalists on either side. All of these hate groups, they get fed lies over and over and over again by media that seeks to have happen what happened in 2020 and 21. So for me, the media would take a majority of the blame. They knew what they were doing. They instigated this. They got what they wanted. But hey, clicks, money, they got paid. For example, I can't have been the only CNN viewer who was shocked when Anderson Cooper described President Trump as an obese turtle on its back, flailing in the hot sun. You could never imagine Wolf Blitzer or John King saying something like that about the President of the United States. Speaking of King, shout out to Larry King. You heard what happened to him recently. However much he provoked them with taunts of fake news. They better understand the vital importance of a network like CNN remaining resolutely politically impartial. When did that happen? Especially if it wishes to remain the most trusted name. That ship has sailed a long time ago. Cooper, who spent 4 years openly sneering at Trump on air, including spending 2 years gorging over a Russia collusion story that turned out to be a nothing burger, has barely been able to contain his personal glee since Trump's downfall and Biden's election. It's a trap that his colleagues like Blitzer, King, and Jake Tapper haven't fallen into because they know how dangerous it is for CNN's credibility. But Cooper is not alone. Much of the US media is currently in the grip of an unctuous, prolonged period of gratuitously intense, derriere smoke blowing towards Halo Joe and his Vice President Kamala, the new Mother Teresa Harris. Okay, that's it right there. We got to cut it off right there. There's some more to it. I'm going to leave it up on the screen. I gave my thoughts. It's just amazing to me. But I like to see somebody who calls it out. I looked at the comments. Some people were saying how terrible Pierce is, how he's a blowhard, how he's an idiot. My comment that I left was, I said, let me sum up the comments, and we'll end it on this note. I said, all of the people who are calling him out now spent 4 years loving Morgan when he was calling out Donald Trump. Now that he's calling out their boy Biden, oh, he's the worst person in the world. He must be a terrorist. He's a alt-right adjacent white supremacist multiracial whiteness. And that's how it works. You guys know how it works. People love people who disagree with the guy they hate. So all of a sudden, Mitt Romney, Liz Cheney, John McCain back in the day. Oh, they love John McCain. They love Cindy McCain now. Homerism, what can you do? It's what I said in there, the echo chamber. It's a lonely place, a dangerous place to live in. And it's only going to get worse. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care, be well, and have a great rest of your week.